What's going on, everyone? And welcome back to another episode of the Mountaintop Motivation Podcast. Today, we are here with an incredible seven-figure entrepreneur, Bridgitte Carroll. How are you doing today, Bridgitte?
Oh my God, I am good. I'm so excited for this conversation. Your energy is so good, so I know it's going to be fun.
Oh, I'm so excited. I'm glad that Jake Kelfer introduced us and connected us. Because I think that networking is such an important thing, connecting with other people. I'm curious, how much has networking with the right people impacted you and your business and your journey?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I just came back from a mastermind where I was spending time with the friend who connected us, Jake, and I was reflecting on that. And it not only improved my network so much from like a expansive way of like, okay, these people are doing it, so can I. Like being around seven-figure entrepreneurs when I was only a multi-six-figure entrepreneur, that helped my bottom line a lot. But what it really helped with, and I think is honestly the most important, is that it helped me to feel more grateful in my life. It helped me to feel more excited about business and just really improved my enjoyment. So networking, I think honestly is the thing that allowed me to kill it in my business so quickly, but also to not burn out because I was around people, like-minded people who were doing it as well and had a lot of advice of, hey, do this, don't do that. Hey, let's connect on a personal level and not just business. So networking, I think, is the number one thing if you're trying to grow your business to be focusing on.
Yeah, I like that idea that you shared about how important it is to see people and say, okay, well, if they did it, I can do it too. And for me, this is a big part of the reason for these interviews is for people to see people and say, okay, if they can do it, then I can too. But because I think it just becomes so much more possible when you learn their story and learn they're just normal, regular people.
Absolutely. And I think there's two different ways to go about that. You see someone crushing it, and you can make it mean two different things about yourself. You can go into comparisonitis mode where you're like, oh, she can or he can, but I can't, and come up with all of these limiting beliefs about why you can't. Or they're saying, to yourself, they did, I can too. So it's two different things. It's comparisonitis or they can, I can as well. And for a lot of my clients, what something that I work with them on is that shift. Because for a lot of women, and I don't know if you see this with, I coach mostly women, that we go into comparisonitis a lot. And my guess would be that's the same for men. It can just be very typical. If we see someone killing it, that we can as well. So that shift is really important.
I think comparisonitis is my new favorite word. I had never heard that before. That's a great word.
Yeah, I mean, it can be quite the disability for sure, like the disorder of sorts. So comparisonitis.
Yeah. Well, let's get into your story. So I think it's such a cool story that Bridgitte, you have gone, you went from 0 to 7 figures in 16 months. That's unbelievable. That's something that typically people go level by level by level. What do you attribute that quick success to?
Oh gosh. I mean, the big things like network is number one. And not just like going to my friends who were in business, investing in my network. So I invested in 3 masterminds in my first year. And all of the investments for the masterminds were over $20,000. So basically, I invested about $60,000 in masterminds alone, literally paying for my friends. That's what I say, like jokingly.
Yeah.
Paying for friends, getting into the right rooms. So that's huge, is being around like-minded people, being around people who are higher than you are. And then if you do go into comparisonitis mode, making that shift. The second thing would be doing the inner work. So before I hired a business coach, I hired a mindset coach. And what they really helped me do is like dive into what I wanted to do, what my authentic message was. And we also worked on limiting beliefs that were screwing me or would screw me from reaching my goals. That biatch in the back, I call her, the subconscious, that really runs the show.
Yeah.
I worked on her a lot with deep hypnosis meditation and just what I call the inner work was
Mm,
really, those two things alone were the biggest things to get me to 7 figures in 16 months.
that's amazing. Before we go into the specifics of the story, I realize that there's probably all of our listeners saying, awesome, but Bridgitte, what do you do? So tell us about your business.
Yeah. So as we stand today, I have 3 different businesses, but I'll go to the beginning. So I started my business in June 2020. 2 months into the global pandemic, I talked with one of my good friends who was a mindset coach, and we realized together through discussion and exploration that I had my quote unquote dream job, but I wasn't happy or fulfilled. And there were
And
a
what
couple
was that?
I made my own job within a holistic pharmacy. Was the director of nutrition.
Mm,
So I was seeing clients one-to-one. I'm a registered dietitian. That is like my
cool.
career. That's what I went to school for 8 years for, and was seeing one-to-one clients at this holistic pharmacy. And realized in talking with this mindset coach that I was unfulfilled because of this job. I wasn't getting paid enough. There were 2 people running the show that really didn't value me. So I was like, all right, peace out. I'm going to start my own business, much
Yes.
to many people's dismay of
You
like,
said
oh my,
June of 2020.
June of
So
2020.
everyone, all of your network, all your friends, all your family are saying it's June of 2020. You have a job. What are you thinking?
Absolutely.
Cool.
Absolutely. And I
That's
was
great.
like, yeah. And that was so helpful to like shift my mindset of like, if I'm not fulfilled, it's like almost like this or something better. And I
Right.
knew there was something better and I was going to call my shot. And honestly, that like phrase of like call your shot is something that has guided me in the right direction every single step of the way. So I started my first business, which was Well by Bridgitte. It was one-to-one virtual gut health coaching. And
Mm,
my first month in business was $42,000.
wow. That's
Like,
amazing.
yeah, I was like, holy shit, what just happened here? I actually, and truthfully, Jake, I didn't know my numbers until 4 months later. I
Wow.
didn't even know that I hit $42,000. I didn't know that I hit 6 figures in 2.5 months. I was just following my alignment of like, what feels really freaking good? How can I really solve people's problems? And I knew I was a G. I knew I was so good as a dietitian in fixing people's gut health issues. So
Wow.
that's where I started. And I was a gut health coach for about 7 months. And then I hired this one business coach, more business strategy coach, about my 6th or 7th month in business. And she started asking questions like, do you want to do this forever? You've had so much success as an online business owner in 6 or 7 months. you know, would you want to teach people how to do this? And I was like, yeah, because it was easy. It was just pretty funny where she was like, I hope you realize for some people, this has not been easy. And that's where I
Mhm.
started realizing that my journey was a little bit different, that of doing the mindset work first, of listening to my gut and being in full alignment with myself, that's where I was creating a lot of success.
Mm,
And so I became a business coach and I joined 3 more masterminds of people who are doing this, and um, really was good at coaching my business coaching clients of getting into alignment with themselves and using strategies I used, but really asking them questions so that they could get in alignment with themselves.
mm. What kind of questions help people get in alignment with themselves?
Yeah. Oh, like what would feel really good? I think is a great question. When I think of like launch strategy for my clients, I think strategy is very, very, very important and it's very important to have. But if it doesn't feel good, if it doesn't feel exciting, if it doesn't feel like a big hell yeah, and then you go and try and use someone else's strategy that doesn't feel good, the energy behind it is going to be blah. You're
Yeah.
going to, yeah, you're going to
Yeah.
manifest that it's not going to work because you're not in alignment with it. it doesn't feel good to you. So then when you go to do your launch strategy, the whole time it's going to feel like pushing a boulder up a hill.
Mm. So what would feel good for you? Now, what's an example of, I'm not exactly sure how to ask this question, but what I'm looking at is not everything all the time is super fun. Like, okay, I love exercising, but I don't love it every day, but like I still do it every day. So I guess what I'm asking is, where's the balance? Where's the balance between, hey, I love this idea and I love, where's the balance between I love this and it's bliss, and yeah, but I got to do the work, even though some days it doesn't feel like that.
Oh, 1,000%. And I probably, in the last couple minutes have painted such an altruistic picture, but I think that's the goal, is to
Oh,
get
right.
to
I
a point,
agree.
right, where you're really in your zone of genius. So anything that doesn't feel good, I have my clients either delegate, automate, or delete it.
Mm,
So what allowed me really to hit seven figures so quickly is I'm a master delegator. And I think
mm,
honestly, for people going from six figures to multi six figures, or multi six figures, especially to seven figures, I think that transition from having like a 50K month to having like an 100K month is
mhm.
delegation through and through. So I think that if something doesn't feel really good, figuring out like, can you do one of those things? And then, of course, there's going to be things in their business that really don't feel great. But that's where like really tuning into zone of genius is going to be that seven figure, multi seven figure person who's really just
Yes.
honed in of like, this is what I freaking do so good.
Yeah.
So much expansion there.
That makes so much sense. And to be clear, I'm only asking in that way because as the interviewer, I need to play the contrarian for all those who are thinking, hey, but what if, but what if, but what if? So that's where the questions are coming from. Because I agree with you. And I think I have my definition of what that means to say, if you don't love it, don't do it. But also at the same time, I think that a lot of people give a lot of yeah buts, and I think if we can take away the yeah buts,
Mm-hmm.
it's so empowering for them to go, okay,
Mm-hmm.
all my yeah buts are gone, so now it's time for
Mm-hmm.
me to just go.
Yes. And this is something very important to say as well, is like, it doesn't mean like, let's say you have an offer, right? Like, let's say you have a
Yeah.
group coaching program and it doesn't feel good. We can make micro adjustments to make it feel amazing. You don't have to say, like, a lot of my clients come to me, a lot of my clients are multi six figure people, and they'll say, like, yeah, I just don't want to do one to one. And I say, well, is it that you just don't love one to one, or is the way that you're doing it right now not in alignment? So, for
Mm,
example, some people might be undercharging for one to one services. Like when I say one to
right.
one, it's just like, me and you on a virtual call.
Yeah.
Um, so, for example, I'll use myself as an example. One to one was feeling kind of heavy at one point. There were a couple different reasons. One, I had way too many clients. Okay, so it's going to feel out of alignment because I feel like I'm doing too much of it. And
Right.
two, I was doing all Zoom calls. And I switched a lot of my clients to phone calls, and then it felt so much better. And my clients loved it.
I'm so happy that you said that. I'm like, I can't tell you how happy I am that you said that, because like sometimes I there's all these little things around my desk of things that I play with on calls because I need to be moving. And sometimes for me, I'm so much more creative if I can walk around. If I can walk around this, I purposely got an office that was big enough that I can walk. Like, it's not like it's massive, but it's big enough. I can walk, I can move, I have space in here. And it's like there's a whole nother space over there. And it's because I love moving. I love being
Mm.
outside. Like sometimes my favorite coaching calls are me sitting on a park bench and talking to someone because I can get in touch with so much more when I'm outside or I'm moving or any of those things. And I hear a lot of people say like, no, I need to see their body language, I need to see this. And I'm like, why? This is like,
Yeah.
sometimes the phone is so much better.
1,000%. I'm so in love with that. So then if you were my client, I'd be like, are you doing that enough? And that's where like, okay,
Yeah.
what our clients believe will get them results. No, we are the guide to say, hey, we're going to try this out and see how it feels. Or the boundary is set like, hey, all of our calls are now one-to-one Zoom calls. And I think for some of us
Or phone calls,
entrepreneurs,
one-to-one phone
or
calls, or one.
one-to-one
Yeah.
phone calls. Yeah, exactly. For some of us entrepreneurs, what we don't have great sometimes are boundaries.
Yeah.
Boundaries with work, boundaries with our clients. And that sounds like a pretty small boundary, but I'll tell you, some of my clients would be like, well, I could never do that. My clients would be so upset. But what you just said is, holy cow, I get like incredible results when I'm like this. And that makes you more in your zone of
Yeah.
genius.
I love doing it on that kind of, in that kind of setting. I think it's such a great thing to do them in that setting. I like doing Zoom as well, but I end up, I guess there's pros and cons to both. And I think that the phone call is undervalued in the coaching world. I think everyone thinks that it has to be a Zoom call, and there's something about not moving that is challenging for me. I don't know if it's challenging for everyone because everyone's different, but like so my wife was a tutor for a couple of years, working with, most of the clientele were hyperactive teenage boys, which was very much me growing up. And one of the things that she found, I remember she had this one boy she was working with, and this boy was having such a hard time with math and really focusing on that. And this was in an area that there was a big Intel, the company Intel, the computer company, their big plant there in Folsom, California. It was right next to that. So all parents were engineers. They're very focused on this, and they were not happy with how he was performing. And so I think this boy was like 13 or 14 or something like that. So my wife started doing the math homework, but having him stand on one foot as he was doing it, switch back and forth, turn around, walk around in circles, and do all these things. And then he was getting it, and he was able to do it. And I just think that some people are different. We're wired differently. And some of us need that movement, or some of us need fresh air, or some of us need, and I think it's so important as a coach to understand how you can deliver the most value to your clients. And that's what matters the most.
Absolutely. And then I'd also follow up with that, and yourself.
Yeah.
Right. Because if you are so in your zone and you feel really good, that's where the alignment piece is, right? Like, let's take another example of like, if we're not exercising as coaches, or we are not eating well, or my two of my three companies focus on gut health. If our gut health or our hormone health is really off, we can't be the best coaches that we can be either. And that affects our bottom line as well. So if we talk about going from 0 to 7 figures in 16 months, my health came first. My health was on point first. Health is our wealth. And because I took care of myself a lot of the time, I was able to show up big for my clients.
Yeah. In Tony Robbins just came out with a new book called Life Force. And have you looked at it yet? Have you read it yet?
Yeah, my mentor just gifted it to us last week. So
okay, cool. I mean, it's like the Audible is like 22 hours long. So I mean, it's a long book. It's a very long book. I'm like halfway through it, but there's a line at the beginning of the book that I thought was so great. He says, this wasn't his thing. It was some kind of proverb. Someone a long time ago said it, an old person. I don't remember what it was, died a long time ago. But what they said was, a healthy man has many dreams, and an unhealthy man has one. I thought that was so interesting to think about. Like, when you are sick, maybe he said a sick man. I was thinking about like my brother-in-law has, there's a bunch of issues that this one brother-in-law has. And I told him that quote, and he's like, oh my gosh, yes. He's like, I don't care about anything else other than getting healthy, and a lot of it's taken care of now. But he said, when it was in the darkest time and the hardest
Mm.
time of it, nothing else in my life mattered. And I think that that's a really cool thing to think about. We have to put ourselves first. And it's not, yes, it's important for us and our health, but it's so important. Our success comes from doing those kinds of things. And we see it over and over again, and everyone says it. Why do you think so many entrepreneurs have a hard time doing their exercise, doing their self-work, taking care of themselves, really, putting themselves first? I don't even think of it as putting themselves. It's honestly, it's putting your clients first. It's putting your business first. If you can't take care
Mm.
of yourself, you can't do those things. But why do you think so many people have a hard time doing that?
Yeah. Well, I can use myself as an example of, putting myself first for almost probably 20 months. We got to 16 months, and then 20 months was probably until December, something like that. And then January and February of this year, something shifted. And I can honestly pinpoint for me, and as we're talking about this, I'm like having a huge revelation of, we launched a brand new company. I have a gut health supplement company that launched middle of November last year, and things were going okay. But what shifted me from putting myself first to putting my 3 companies first was fear,
Mm,
was lack. So there's 2 different mindsets we can have as well in business and in life, and there's gray area. Of course, there's always gray area, but there's
yeah.
lack or abundance, right? Lack would be like, I have not, there's never enough. Coming from the Midwest myself, it was a lot of money lack mindset that I
Mhm.
grew up with. In an abundant mindset, it's there's always enough. I
Yeah.
have what I need. I'm so grateful for it all. So with launching my new company, Gut Personal, and then moving into the new year, we had staff on my team that it was not working out with. We hired a marketing agency, we hired a COO. None of it was working. And I was in lack that, one, they could do their job, which we found out that they truly couldn't. So that's a reality. But 2, I was fearful that my business would plummet, that
Mm,
we were launching at one, we have 3 different companies. We were launching something in all of the companies at once. And so I didn't set myself up for success with strategy. That's one thing. But then also I was so fearful that we would not be successful. And so
mm,
fear made me take my eyes away what was truly important and what was my North Star, which was my health and gratitude.
I love that. I know that there are people listening right now thinking, wait, what do you mean you had fear and lack when you
Mhm.
already were at that 7-figure level? And obviously how silly that is, but that's where people think, we think about, if wait, you can't have problems because you're already here. People think
Mm.
that reaching that level in your business will just solve all your problems. Can you talk about still experiencing fear, still experiencing lack, even when you reach a new level?
I think, oh gosh, this is so good. A huge lesson I've learned with putting myself in the room with people who are higher up than me, they were making more than me. I just came from a mastermind retreat, a mastermind that really helped me, Chris Harder. He hosts a mastermind